This is assignment 19.1, my SWOT assessment for sailing by Joey Webben. Firstly, I'll be taking a look at my strengths and weaknesses within sailing. I formed an overall assessment table of my strengths and weaknesses within sailing. Some of these include, some of my strengths were getting into the boat, using the tiller, stowing the boat, and when capsized, being able to flip the boat back over. Weaknesses were moving in the boat to support the tack, sailing away from the wind and tacking into the wind. I'm now going to take you through a more in-depth analysis of the strengths of all of the strengths and weaknesses, and how I rated myself on them, and what I was good at and what I was bad at. The first skill that we had to perform is getting into the boat. My partner held the boat to prevent the boat from drifting away. I then put both hands onto the boat and pushed up onto the opposite side of the boat to prevent the boat from becoming unbalanced and capsizing. I then slid into position to control the sail. I gave myself a 10 out of 10 rating for this skill because I managed to get into the boat successfully without it capsizing. Another skill that I am assessing is my ability to control the tiller. The tiller is a long stick attached to the rudder, which is used to steer the boat by pushing and pulling the rod left to right. I rated my skill level a 7 out of 10 on this because I was relatively good at steering the boat when I was looking the way that the boat was travelling. However, I would occasionally look back at the rod and then I would start to lose control of the boat. The third skill that I assessed was my ability to steer the sail towards the wind. When you were sailing into the wind, you had to ensure that you kept the sail steady and hold the power rope tight so that you did not capsize the boat. I gave myself a 6 out of 10 for this skill because although we did capsize the boat a number of times, towards the end of the session, when we were sailing into the wind, I learned that I had to hold the sail tight and when we were sailing into the wind effectively without capsizing. Another skill that I will be assessing was my ability to sail the boat into the wind. This is when the boat is facing the direction the wind is facing, which makes it harder for to control the boat as the wind is pushing you in the opposite direction. I gave myself 6 out of 10 for this skill as I found it harder to control the boat and kept facing in the direction a number of times. I lost control of the boat and it would end up capsizing. However, towards the end of the session, I started to understand the skill and started sailing into the wind effectively without capsizing the boat. Another skill that I found to be a struggle was tacking into the wind. Tacking is a move performed during turning the boat around. The person steering must use the tiller to turn the boat round and then duck under the boom as it swings round to get to the other side to maintain balance and to keep the boat in control. This was a severe weakness of mine as I found that I would lose control of the direction of the boat during the tack due to the change of the wind coming against the boat. The fifth skill that I will be assessing is my ability to move the boat to support the tack. This is where I had to move from my partner when they were steering in order to support the tack. You need to lean on the opposite side of the sail as it swings round so that the boat does not capsize. This was the skill I found the hardest because I could not manage to move to the opposite side of the boat in time, which then caused the boat to capsize. Another skill that I felt I needed improving on was sailing away from the wind. I found it difficult to control the boat with the wind as I found it gave you too much speed and I lost control of the boat and just ended up spinning round in circles. However, I found tacking away from the wind was a lot easier to do than tacking into the wind, as the wind helps turn the boat around faster, which makes it harder for it to tip over during the move. I gave myself a 6 out of 10 as I was relatively quick at moving under the boom and getting back into position to use the tiller. The next skill needed for sailing is stowing the boat. This involves taking the boat to the edge of the lagoon, taking the dagger board out of the boat and then pull the boat up onto the side. Next, the sail must be wrapped up. I gave myself a 7 out of 10 on this skill as it was an easy task to do and does not require a lot of skill. Another skill that I will be assessing is when the boat is capsized. This is getting the boat upright after it has been capsized. I rated myself 10 out of 10 at this skill as me and my partner were very quick to turn the boat back over each time. by putting our weight on the dagger board and the back corner of the boat to turn it over. The final two skills are teamwork and communication. Overall, I feel like our communication was poor because we would not help each other and work together to control the boat, other than when the boat was capsized. Instead, we focused on ourselves and blamed each other for any mistakes. I will now be moving on to the opportunities that there are within sailing for me to improve my ability. From forming an assessment of my strengths and weaknesses in sailing, it is clear to see that there is a lot of improvement that needs to be made. There are a variety of different ways that I can do to improve my skill. I can go back with the college. The college will book for us to return to the sailing centre where we will get to complete an open session with an instructor present. This will give us a chance to practice in the areas of sailing that we felt we were poor at and receive advice and help from the instructor. You can attend a taster session. A taster session will allow you to have further practice at sailing and will give you a chance to practice your skills on the lagoon. Reduced fees for starters. By there being reduced fees for starters, it will enable you to be able to practice sailing for a lot cheaper price. You can attend an open session. An open session is where you can go sail freely within the lagoon within a group that is coached by an instructor. By attending these sessions, it will allow you to develop and improve your skills. It also may benefit from learning from others around you as well as the instructor. You can also book into a 1v1 session with an instructor where you can have an hour or so with the instructor, and it will allow you to work one-on-one with the instructor, and you can pick up on specific tips and clear instructions with him. You can also work on specific skills within sailing that you felt you were bad at, e.g. say if you found that you were bad at tacking. Say if you found you were bad at tacking, you may create a skill-specific, ask him to do a skill-specific session on tacking. Another way you can improve your sailing ability is by watching skill-specific videos. This will allow you to gain a skill-specific knowledge and will allow you to further your knowledge on how to perform a certain skill correctly. You could also perform skill-specific training, for example, working on your agility, as it is essential to have a good agility when you're sailing. I'm now going to move on to the threats that you may have to be able to complete all of the activities that I just listed. As you can see, there are a lot of ways in which you can improve your sailing ability. However, there are a lot of significant barriers that also could prevent you from being able to do this. These include time. You may not have the time to be able to go and complete this training program, because you might not be able to fit it around your college timetable or activities that you do outside of college. You might not have the money to be able to complete any of these activities. The cost of paying for an open session or a one-on-one session is a lot, and you may not be able to afford this, although it will be greatly beneficial to your ability. Distance. You may live, say, far away from the sailing centre where you're performing your sailing, so it might not be possible for you to be able to get there. And travel will also cost money, and you may not be able to travel an hour to the National Sailing Centre to complete a day there. Right. I'm now going to show you In order to improve my sailing skills, I've developed a 6-week plan where I've decided on different activities to help me improve my skills. My first session is a one-to-one session where I will practice specific skills that I feel I need to improve on. For example, in my strengths and weaknesses, I found that one of my weaknesses was tacking into the wind, so I'll ask him for tips on how I can improve and then practice these skills with his support. During this session, I can also pick up on specific tips and clear instructions from the instructor where I believe I will improve my sailing ability massively. My next session will be where I will watch videos on specific skills within sailing and make notes on how I can learn and perform these skills. Following me watching the videos, I will now attend an open session where I can now put into practice the skills that I've learned from my one-on-one session and from watching the skill-specific videos. By me attending the open session and being able to practice the skills that I have learned, it will now allow me to develop and improve my skills further. In the second week of my development plan, I've decided to perform an agility/flexibility based session, because in order to be able to move across the boat quickly and effectively, you will need good levels of flexibility and agility. Within the first session, I'm going to perform some developmental stretches. I will perform lying hamstring stretch, lying hip flexor, and a seated chest stretch. These stretches are specifically targeted to improve the flexibility of my lower and upper body, as when sailing you will need flexibility specifically in those areas. Furthermore, within this session I will also be performing some agility exercises. There will be speed ladders, plyometric jump box drills and tuck jumps. My next session will be a one-on-one session where I'll be working on specific skills that I worked on in the last session. I will be looking to ensure that I have mastered the skills that I worked on last session, as well as starting to work on new skills with the instructor and ask him for feedback at the end of the session on what he thought I did well and what he thought I can improve on. In my final session of the week, I'll be watching specific skill videos and making detailed notes on how I can perform these skills. For example, I found a weakness of mine within sailing was tacking into the wind, so therefore I will make notes on this skill type. The first session of week 3, I'm going to attend another open session. I'm going to use this time on the water to develop the specific skills that I've been working on in my one-on-one session and put these into practice, and put the skill-specific tips that he has given me into practice. The next session within my development plan will be a specific PNF stretching and agility-based session. I will perform the same agility activities that I performed in the previous agility session. PNF stretches aim to both stretch and contract the muscle that is targeted. In this case, it will be all lower body based exercise. For my final session of the week, I will attend a taster skill session run by the National Sailing Centre. In this instance, it will be a session specifically based to improve tacking and flagging. These are two of the most important skill sets in sailing, and two that I found to be weaknesses within my skill set, so therefore I've decided to attend a day at the National Sailing Centre. At the start of week 4, I'm going to attend an open session. I am now 4 weeks into my sailing development program, so I should be expecting to see some significant improvements in my sailing skill set. Within this open session, I will be looking to move around the water comfortably and turning the boat well every time. Also, taking on board the tips that I've learned from my tacking and flagging taster skill session, my next session in the week will be a supervised open water session. I'll be taken out onto the open water, accompanied by an instructor. This session will be my hardest session to date because the skill will be choppier and the wind will be even more a significant factor, so therefore my overall skill set will be tested greater than ever before. However, as I will have my instructor there with me, he will be there to give me support and guidance if it is needed. My final session of the week will be a video feedback session. This is where I will sit with my instructor and I will watch back the video of when I was out on the open water session. Here I will ask my instructor to point out areas that I did well and areas that I have for improvement. My first session in week 5 will be my final agility and flexibility based session. Within the session, I will be performing more advanced PNF and developmental stretches. This will not only help to improve my flexibility and agility, it will also help to just stretch out all of my muscles and reduce stiffness and soreness in my muscles. This is the final agility based session, so as I am in week 5 into my developmental plan, I'll be expecting to see completing my agility exercises quicker and with a degree of accuracy. For my second session of the week, I'm going to be completing my final supervised open water session. By this stage of the developmental plan, I should be a much more confident sailor, so therefore should not be looking to the instructor for much advice and support. Within this session, I will be looking to improve the things that I thought were weaknesses of mine when I look back at the video feedback session. My final session of the week is a video feedback session. I will now get my instructor to watch the video back with me and get him to help out the points and things that he thought I was good at in the areas he thought I needed to improve on, ensuring that I'm prepared for my open water sailing session. My first session of week 6 is where I will attend a National Sailing Centre taster day. Within this session, I will look to further enhance my knowledge within sailing and look to pick up tips from the coaches there. Furthermore, following the guidance that I received from my video analysis, I will ask the instructor for tips on how I can improve in these specific areas and which will prepare me for my open water sail. My final and most challenging session of my development program will be my open water sail. This is where I will get to take to the open water for the first time with an instructor. I'll get my instructor to make up a course that I have to complete, and I have to try to complete